Welcome back, guys, to Imperfect Parenting. I am Seth Dahl, which means we're at the top of our month, and all three of us are here, Brittany, Ben, and myself. We are excited. We're partway through now, season 5 of Imperfect Parenting, and it's good to be back with all of you this month, this week.
Yes, we love when Seth comes.
We do.
We're changing it up. So Seth is now afar. He's not with us in studio, which isn't as fun. Let's be
not
honest.
as fun.
It's not as fun.
But it's
But
because he moved to the other coast.
yes.
At least that's what I'm telling him. He moved so far away that it just takes too long to get here now.
It does.
Somewhat true. And our filming schedule is crazy. So we have to figure it out. But we've been doing this for a while, and it's super fun and enjoying it with all of you so much. But I think my favorite thing that we did last month with Seth was name our audience.
We did. We gave you guys all a name. The
Go ahead, Seth.
Ipsters.
The Ipsters.
For Imperfect Parenting, IP Stir. Ipsters. That's who
Yep.
you are now.
We're Ipsters.
If someone out there would like to get the hashtag going, jump on it.
Mm-hmm.
And let's get this hashtag
Jump on.
movement
Share us all
started.
your memes. We want to see your memes with hashtag Ipster. Maybe we should start it and then tag a
Should.
bunch of people
We
that
probably
know
should.
listen.
We probably have to figure out how we're spelling this. Because
Oh, yeah.
could
Like
that...
hipster without a H.
Okay.
And I'm Australian, so I say H.
H. Okay.
Aussies, I see you.
Yeah.
Australia does love us on our
I know.
podcast. So Aussie, Aussie,
Oi, oi, oi.
Aussie. Okay.
All right. Brittany,
Yes.
you should lead us into this meme.
Okay.
And the main reason is because you're the only one here that has done this.
This is true. I am the only one. Okay. Well, it is. Ashley, are you ready for us? Great. It is a photo, and it says throwback to when my kids ate whatever I made for dinner without complaining. And it is a sonogram photo. So there they are, just so content and happy with whatever it is I was feeding them.
Remember that season? It was just so easy.
Whatever's coming down the umbilical cord.
Yep.
Polish dogs and sauerkraut was.
Oh my
was the
gosh.
lady.
At like 8:30 at night. I need extra sauerkraut, Ben. Okay.
Why?
I'm going to what's that restaurant called?
Wiener Schnitzel.
Not restaurant.
It's
Fast food
fancy.
chain. Benning Leaf's favorite chain.
That's true. The Wiener Schnitzel, that's the only place that we could go to get it at 8 o'clock at night.
In Little Redding, California.
Costco.
Why a Polish dog?
I think they're a little spicier than a hot dog.
It's just a feeling. You should have a feeling.
And they're I think they're just got more spices to it. And then the sauerkraut, I just wanted a ton of it on there as well. So I know it's fermented cabbage.
Maybe that's
Maybe that's why Delaney loves weird things so much.
gonna say.
That girl will eat a Brussels sprout not cooked. Like it's
Like
the
an apple?
best. Yeah, she does. She just bites into it. She's kind of weird like that, but it's probably because that's what I fed her. There was another meme that I was going to put on there that said, it's this newborn baby with a scrunchy little chubby face. It's scowling, that looks mad, hair's crazy. And it says, when you finally meet the person that's been feeding you hot Cheetos and pickles for the 9 months.
That's great.
It's kind of funny. But,
You're all grumpy. There you are.
it does go along with our theme of having big feelings. I think that little one was having some big feelings, even though they were a newborn.
Yeah.
Yep. That's what we're talking about today. Big feelings. And yeah, when our kids don't get what they wanted to eat, there can be big feelings around there. So I do think it leads perfectly into today's topic. And it's been interesting. Like we were just chatting the before we hit record, just about how we're at a time in society where people are very aware of emotions and very aware that they're important and they matter, and they're giving us insight, and they're pointing us to things that could be going wrong or could be going right. And we've definitely put an emphasis on emotions, but at the same time, it's not always going so well, it seems like, also.
Yeah, I think when the emotions start leading us around and that becomes the leader and the teacher and the most important piece, I start just getting blown with the wind.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, this is what I feel today, so this must be true. And our little title we put here is handling big feelings, building resilient kids. And I think teaching our kids how to pay attention, but then what to do with it once it shows up. And you don't have to just react and follow it around and see where it takes you. It's telling you something about yourself and where you're at, and then knowing what to do with it. Because if we don't teach that, then
Mm-hmm.
we're essentially saying, you have a big feeling, go ahead and just react and make a mess and do whatever you want, or we shut it down is the other extreme. Just have zero feelings, have zero emotions, which was how most of us grew up.
Yeah. You're not allowed to have emotions at all.
Yeah,
Shut them completely down. And so again, with the pendulum swing, the
right.
more you shut them down, the further that thing swings over to, oh, we just let kids and everyone allow their emotions to run everything.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
So how do we have a balance? Because, we've got this extreme measure that's going on right now where I see more kids in stores, events, or different things where they have huge emotions and everyone just has to absorb them, which I don't know about you, but if it's not my kid having that big emotion, I'm not going to have as much grace, and I feel happened to, which is not very fun. So I'll probably minimize how much exposure I have to this kid. Um, but how do we balance this having value for emotions, leading this, parenting this, nurturing this, but also confronting that just because you're having this emotion doesn't mean that that is the absolute truth to what's really happening.
Yep.
yeah. I think so. There's this line in used in politics. I don't think it works well in politics, but it definitely works horrible when it comes to relationships. And it's facts don't care about your feelings. And so a lot of times, a parent who's seen people l- expressing massive emotions and just taking over everything and everyone absorbing it. And they're like, no, here's the facts. Facts don't care about your feelings. Your feelings aren't even right because you don't have the facts and you shouldn't be feeling that because of this. And so that's the attempt to like shut it down, stuff it down, all of that stuff. But here's what I would add to facts don't care about your feelings. Facts don't care about your feelings, but feelings cannot hear facts
Mm,
because feelings are facts to the person who's feeling them. And so if your kid is like super mad that somebody did something to them and you're like, no, it was an accident, they can't hear you give them the facts
mm-hmm.
until you've acknowledged the emotion. But what most of us do is go, we don't just acknowledge the emotion, we don't allow them to process the emotion, we let them express the emotion, vomit all over us, all over their sibling, freak out, and then we're like, well, yeah, like, no, it's important for us to help our kids see the facts. Like, you know what, I think that was an accident, I don't think it was on purpose, and there's actually legitimately not a good reason for you to feel so upset because it was an accident. However, to say that without acknowledging the emotion, they can't hear you. And
Yeah.
this is why so many parents end up putting up walls, because they're a lot of times they're trying to throw facts in there when they haven't acknowledged the emotion. The kid hasn't processed the emotion, or the other side is the kid doesn't process the emotion, they express the emotion. And when they express the emotion, they feel different for a short amount of time, but they don't feel better. And they actually shove down the other stuff that's going on inside there. So they may be loud and clear about what they're feeling, like, he did this, they did that, I don't like this, I'm so, just going off the rails. But it's like, oh, you're not actually processing that, you're just expressing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's really important. I think talking to kids about the actual things going on, like, hey, I actually think that was an accident. I don't
Mm.
think you did it on purpose. Like, you're really angry. But I think that needs to be done after we simply acknowledge, so they can go, yeah, I feel really mad. Yeah, you seem pretty mad. Are you sure it was on purpose?
Mm-hmm.
Did they really do that on purpose? Because it looks like it may have been an accident. Now I'm managing my emotions in the situation. I'm acknowledging your emotions. You're processing your emotions, telling me how you feel. But now I can give you information that you need, and you may be able to receive it a lot better because of we've acknowledged the emotions. Otherwise, they just put up these walls, and we're like, why can't they hear me? I'm telling, like, we've all seen it. Parents that are trying to lecture their kids about the
Totally.
information
Yeah.
that they need to know, and the kid just puts up the walls, and it's like they go totally distant from their parents because their parents are totally ignoring their emotions rather than acknowledging them. But then we've seen the other parents that are like, oh, I never deliver the actual facts of the situation
Mm-hmm.
because I need to let you express your emotions all over the place. And I think like I have a great example of this. I think it's potentially the best example of the difference between our children and ourselves processing our emotions versus expressing our emotions. And it has to do with the gun. Like imagine you had a gun and you had the magazine full of bullets and it's loaded in there and you cannot take the magazine out. Ben, you will know this. If you can't take the magazine out and unload the magazine, there's only two ways to get the bullets out.
Mm-hmm.
Way number one is to pull the trigger. Way number two is to pull the slide. And if you pull the slide, you eject the bullet intact and it flies out and you can pull the slide, pull the slide, pull the slide, and pretty soon the gun is empty. Or you can pull the trigger, pull the trigger, pull the trigger, and pretty soon the gun is empty. The difference is if I pull the trigger and I express my emotions, I unload all of my emotions, like with my tone of voice or them with their tone of voice, if they express, then everyone in the house goes completely deaf because my ears are ringing. You just pulled the trigger 7 times in 4 seconds, and I can no longer hear you, and you can no longer hear me, and we can no longer hear each other. Everyone's now in extreme fear. Probably one or two people have holes blown through them, emotional holes blown right through them. You probably blew out a window. So now the outside environment can come right inside our
Mm.
environment, and we're no longer protected from the outside because we've blown holes in everything, in everyone. Everyone's deaf and everyone's scared. Or if I process the emotions and I pull the slide, click, 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 and everyone sees, wow, dad was really mad. My brother was really mad. Everyone, there was a lot of anger there, but everyone processed it out.
Mm-hmm.
No one's deaf. No one's afraid. Actually, everyone feels safe. Like, wow, you got a loaded gun and you didn't shoot anybody. Thank you. No one's got holes in them, and the house is intact. So now you're in charge of your environment still, where before you just opened up to any environment coming in. And so I think that's a huge, for me, that helps me see it really clear. Like if I'm expressing emotions, like you can hear it in your tone, you can hear it in your voice, you can hear it in, you can feel it in your body language when you're communicating to your kids. Like, am I expressing my emotions here?
Mm-hmm.
Are they expressing their emotions or are they processing? Like one powerful thing for me is just to talk about what's going on. Like there's times where I go, hey, boys, I feel very frustrated right now. I'm starting to feel angry. I need a minute so I can think and I walk off. But I'm going, here's a bullet I'm choosing to pull the slide on
Mm-hmm.
instead of pull the trigger. I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not going to scream at you. I'm going to tell you how I feel. And I have them do this too. Like, hey, I don't like it when you do that. I feel angry when you do that. Now we're talking about the emotion instead of expressing the emotion and how we talk. And we're not hurting everyone. We're unloading the gun without pulling the trigger. So
Yeah.
there's some of my very quick thoughts around how to do some of this and handle some of this and allow them to process, but actually process, not just blow holes everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a wonderful, I mean, that's a great goal as you're practicing getting to that stage where they're able to verbalize what it is that's going on, recognize that emotion, um, you know, acknowledge it. I think hopefully you've done the work beforehand where you've kind of done the funner room. So you say, I'm not afraid of big emotions, but I require respect when you're, because disrespect with big emotions is really hard to maintain a culture of respect if those big emotions have, spitting, hitting, the expression becomes super disrespectful. So you've got to do the balance of both, of creating a culture of respect where I will talk through this. I will be with you in this moment. I will ask you questions. We'll process this. If you can stay respectful, because if you can't stay respectful, how do you stay engaged in that process? Because then I think that's the part that is important to me as we learn how to have value for our emotions, is that it comes with respect as well.
Yep.
That you don't just get to fly off the handle because, you're mad.
I think one of the things you just said, Seth, is that we all have a loaded gun.
Mm-hmm.
But how we discharge the emotions is really up to us, and that has to be learned. Because if not, Brittany's dad often talks about children act out their emotions because they don't have the words yet. So we have to actually teach them. And if you never learn, there's
expressing versus processing. I think that's
kind
of his version.
Yeah,
of saying
exactly. And if we never learn, then there's adults walking around acting out their emotions because they never actually learned. So they're still shooting the gun, not discharging the gun. Mm-hmm. Just like you said, they actually haven't learned how to process. As you were sharing that, I was thinking about Lincoln. We have so many Taekwondo stories because it's our world with him, and it's where he gets tested the most.
It's true.
But I was thinking about recently, he had this moment, and we've had similar ones like this with him, but he seemed really, really defiant and stubborn, and it wasn't as overt, but there was a big emotion on the inside, and you could just see it the way he was acting and reacting and not listening, and he starts feeling disobedient and disconnected and all these things. And I asked the question, son, are you scared and embarrassed about what you're about to do? And it was a tournament. And he looked at me and goes, yes. I said, okay. What do you need?
Right.
What's the truth? Because we're still going. We've paid for this. You've committed to it. Your coach expects you. We're going. That's the fact.
Yeah.
How we get there is really up to you. But is this what's happening inside of you? Do you feel scared and embarrassed? I do. Okay. What's going to happen on the other side of this? What's true about Lincoln? No matter the outcome, what's true about Lincoln? And we're having this conversation, but we got to identify what was actually happening. So we got to identify the emotion, point it out, have a process moment, and then send him in with courage. And at the end of it, like every other time we go through this process, he's now thanking me for taking him to Taekwondo, for pushing him to the start line, getting up there. So we started with, I'm not doing this. I'm not going. This is not happening. And we end with, Dad, thank you.
Totally.
That's a great question, Ben. Like, one of the questions I recommend is like, yeah, am I hearing you say you feel scared and embarrassed? That's what you asked. And he's like, yeah. Rather than, I'm not doing this, I'm not going out there. Like, yes, you are. I paid for this. You're going out there. Like, whoa, 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 whoa. I just blew holes in you. And because
Yeah.
you're pulling out your gun. And you asked the question and he got to share it and process it and then have courage in the middle of fear.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because they have big emotions that usually trigger our big emotions. And if you don't do a good job of leading your emotions, then you're going to do a poor job helping them lead their emotions. Which, I'm a big, I respect is really important to me. And so when I get feedback from our kids that they felt disrespected, I'm like, yep, sure. I totally see how I did that. Because remember, I'm the authoritarian, which we've talked about that before. So it's not new. But one of the things I run into a lot because I think where you learn, or the tool that we use the most, I would say, of learning to set a boundary of you can have a big emotion as long as you stay respectful, is in that tool funner room. Like that's where I feel is like baby step of we are introducing the culture. There's a requirement. But this is where I get a lot of pushback from people of, well, that feels like you're saying I can't handle your emotions, or God wouldn't separate himself from us. So I get a lot of pushback around the tool of fun or room because people believe that it's a message of rejection rather than a requirement to participate in the culture or this gift of being around each other. And I'm trying to teach my child that I require respect for us to dive into the processing of emotions. And it's not that I can't or won't be with you in your tantrum as a 2-year-old. It's that I want you to learn the value of respect so that you learn to respect this relationship with me.
Yep.
Rather than I am your punching bag, because I think that's the place of where you have to learn how to process them. Otherwise, they don't ever learn and they just keep bringing this. I tell people all the time, fast forward 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
If your 2-year-old is acting like this and behaving this way, and you are not confronting and not processing what's going on and setting a boundary of respect in your home as a big component of your culture, what is it going to look like when they're 12? That's a big 2-year-old running around with some big emotions.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard. It's so sad for me when people come to me with their 7-year-old that still punches their mom in the stomach because they're having big emotions because they didn't do the work back here.
Yeah.
I know that I've had a lot of pushback around this, fun or room, more now than ever. I would say in the last few years, I've been doing this with gentle parenting and the very awareness of our processing our kids' emotions, being there for them. And there's some beautiful components of this that I do love, but I've got a lot of pushback. So I know that Ben's been with me on the road when this happened. So Seth, I'm curious as to what is been your pushback, or has there been pushback, and what's your response to that?
Yeah, I've had it some too, just people saying this tool kind of feels like we're saying you're not allowed to have negative emotions around me. And I've had people say like, well, God doesn't ever separate himself from us. I'm like, absolutely, God doesn't separate himself from us, but we can separate ourselves from him. And one of the verses I think is really crucial here is Isaiah 59:2, that it says, your sin separates you from God. It's not that God separates from you, it's that you separate from him. God wasn't hiding from Adam, Adam was hiding from God.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus wasn't making Peter come find him, he came looking for Peter. At the same time, Peter went off back in the boat and took off. Adam went and hid. And so I think it's really important for us to keep that in mind. Like, okay, I'm not separating you into your room because I can't handle your emotions. I'm wanting to create an environment where you can actually process what's going on. But if I let you yell and scream and pull the trigger on me, then everything either I'm going to start shooting back, or I'm just going to take it all and teach you that this is how you feel better, is to unload the gun. Because you do feel different. You don't feel better over the long term. You feel different. But so it's not a tool to go, God separating from you. If you have negative emotions, God will push you away. God will keep you away. No. But you will move away from his reality, from his world, from his whole kingdom. You will move further and further away from it. So I love the tool simply because that's the two lines I want kids to live between. Is I want you to live between. I don't want you afraid of me.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure. I want you on the other side of fear.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want you afraid of me, but I don't want you on the other side of respect. And now you disrespect. And we have parents that they go only back and forth, only back. Their kid is super disrespectful, so they get crazy, scary, and then their kid becomes afraid, and they're respecting now, but they're very afraid. And then the
Right.
kid's like, you know what? And then they lighten up and they're, oh, now I'm not afraid of you, but now I get to disrespect you. And I think living in those lines, this is a great tool for living in those lines of going, actually, I mean, for me, the other phrase too that we use all the time is, hey, let's talk when your voice sounds like mine. I'm saying, I would love to talk to you, but I will only talk to you when your
Yeah.
voice sounds like mine. Because if you start yelling and I accidentally yell back, we are not going to solve the actual problem.
Totally.
Neither one of us are processing anything. We're just shoving them down deeper while we hurt each other.
Mm-hmm.
And So I think both the tools are actually incredible to go, no, I'm not separating you. I'm just helping you get ready so you can actually process what's going on. And let's talk when your voice sounds like this. Fun or room means, hey, go just give yourself a reset.
Totally.
Give yourself a reset. I'm gonna take a reset. Come on back when you're ready to talk, when you're ready to process. Like I'm here to process anytime you're ready, but apparently you're not ready. So let's take a little reset time and come back.
And,
I think they're both great.
yeah, and if you don't take a reset, you're probably going to end up pulling the trigger. Because there's a requirement in most places in our world, most parts of society. There's a requirement of self-control. And I think, Brittany talks all the time about, go ask some of your friends, what's the experience you're having with my children?
Yeah.
How are you experiencing my kids? There's some feedback for you.
Well, it's a brave ask.
It's a big question.
And the other part is, are your friends brave enough to tell the truth?
Right.
Because you need to have friends that will actually tell you the truth, not just, oh yeah, they're fine. But we stop inviting you over.
I don't want to hang out with you ever, but they're great.
Seriously.
Yeah. But just the awareness of, I want to teach my children this lesson now. That there's a requirement to step into certain rooms. Actually, every room you step into. In your relationship with the Father, there's a requirement. Brittany often talks about that there's a requirement to get to heaven. His name's Jesus.
Yeah.
And it's full of love, and everyone's welcome, but it's required. That's the only way there is through Jesus.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's lots of big emotions out there, big feelings.
Oh man.
And
This is a good one.
we have a dog trainer coming to the house, and I was laughing because I said, I'm in the business of parenting. I was talking to this dog trainer that's coming out, and parents come to me and they think that I'm going to fix their kid. And I tell them, you know what? It's really you that's the problem. And they don't like to hear that. But I told the dog trainer, I know I'm the problem with this dog. I'm the one that needs help and training. So part of the whole how to handle big feelings is, how are you doing with handling your big feelings?
That's right.
How are you doing with leading in the ability to process rather than just, let the gun go off in your face? So I think it's a great analogy.
Yep.
Super.
And I think, yeah, Brittany, when we were chatting yesterday too, that's one of the things we said about this tool is it's not just to help them. It's
Yeah.
not a boundary to help them regain control. It's to make sure you don't pull the trigger on
Exactly.
them. Right?
Totally.
Like if I let you keep freaking talking like this, I am going
I'm no fun.
so funner room is also a great way to go. I'm protecting my own environment here so that I can stay loving to you and kind to you and respectful to you as well. Because if so, I, we're imperfect parents, so we're not saying like all of us. Like that's the thing that's funny about this is parents are like, but funner room. I'm like, yeah, okay, let your kid unload on you for
Mm-hmm.
10 minutes
Yeah.
and let's see what happens. Because if you don't set the boundary, eventually you're the one that's going to lose it completely. And you're the one that's going to unload your gun. And you didn't set a boundary for your kid or for you to stay in respect. And so I just think it's like, this is a good thing for us too. Like sometimes I'm like, Daddy's going to his room. Daddy's gonna reset. I'm gonna go
That is no
reset.
fun.
I'm gonna go take a break till I can talk like this. Like, if I catch myself before, I don't have to worry about cleaning up a huge mess later.
Yeah.
So
It's true. All right, Ipsters. You got to handle your big feelings, okay?
yep, you gotta
And
handle them.
you got to handle them so
Learn
you
to
can help
process
lead
them.
your families and their big feelings too. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for listening to us on the Imperfect Parenting podcast. We will see you next week.